What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. Here we are. I'm your guy, Will, down below NASCAR Opinion. We got my crazy guy over there, Armani, at Velocity XTC, part of World Racing Media here on YouTube. And
the Motorsport Minister.
What'd you say?
The Motorsport Minister.
The Motorsport Minister. He's an ordained minister, so he's been riding that wave ever since that happened last year. So, obviously, last night we had the Bass Pro Shops NRA night race at Bristol. I was fortunate enough to go. You see, notice, got the new cap, got the new favorite part of the cap. If I can learn how to put this in the camera, that neon 9 right there. You know, had to get the new cap. Wasn't the only thing I had to snag. I really, really wanted the Noah Gragson Bass Pro Shops car. Couldn't find it. Dude, apparently the Chase Elliott Hooters Night Owl is like crack in the garage. Like, you cannot get it. Like, one dude had one for like $125. I'm like, I'm not going to pay double for this diecast. But I did pick up this one.
Ooh.
We talked about the diecast last week, and I was like, you know what? I forgot about this car. It's not that iconic of a car. I think he only ran it once, maybe twice. But I remember the Hooters Spirits car from last year, which was at the Bristol night race. And I was like, I'll just get that one. That one's cool. I liked it when it came out. So I figured I'd snag it. So I know you had to, I believe you were at work last night. So
yeah,
how did that go?
It's working at Walmart. I mean, there's really nothing much to say about it.
Working at Walmart, nothing else to say about it. So obviously, like I said, I was at Bristol. Really, really excited about it. You know, typically I go to my first race of the year at the latest in May. I try to go to the 600 every year, and obviously couldn't this year because there were no fans, and which I guess saved me heartbreak in the end because I would have just seen Alan Gustafson pit Chase Elliott out of the lead with 2 to go. Because damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Imagine someone recorded your reaction to that.
Oh man, it was rough. But obviously, it's first race of the year. I love going through the mountains, so we got to drive through the mountains to get there. About 2.5 hours for me, and just enjoyed it. Rolled out here about 1:30. Didn't have to like rush and do anything. Just a casual drive. That's one cool thing about night races. Got there, was able to meet some of the fellow kind of YouTube, NASCAR, Twitter guys, Iceberg, Dalton Good, who was on the show, Justin Champagne. Ironically, me and Justin ended up sitting 2 rows from each other. Remind you, these are assigned seats, and none of us planned anything about going to this race. So, yeah, he ended up being like 2 rows above me. We took a couple of pictures. We were watching each other during the race. I got a couple good clips of Justin reacting to certain things in the grandstands. Joseph Lombard, got to meet him. A couple other guys that I didn't realize who they were. Keith Merrick, I think, was one of them. There's a couple other ones, too. I mean, it was just cool to meet those guys. Everybody was really nice. It was cool. We got to break the news to Dalton live and in person that Kyle Busch had to start in the rear. So that was hilarious.
What was his reaction?
And then, dude, he was like, "I'm pissed already." And then, we got to break the news to Justin about the Bubba Wallace news yesterday coming out about Denny Hamlin and all that thing looking to come together. So Justin was pretty excited about that. So,
nice.
Yeah. So now getting into this, today we were going to go over kind of the Bristol race. We're going to go over, obviously, we had our first round of eliminations. And then we'll kind of cap off the show talking about the drivers in the round of 12 and what we think moving forward. So with the first part, I know, Armani, you said you got to watch the highlight list. So I'm sure one of the biggest chunks of the highlights was Mr. Kyle Busch versus Mr. Win at all costs, win everything this year, take all the trophies for himself, Kevin Harvick. When you were looking at the highlights, what did you think about that battle?
It's a pretty good battle. Kyle Busch really tried to push him the last couple laps. I thought he would get to him, like watching the highlights. Harvick winning his 9th race of the year. That's the most since Carl Edwards in 2008, actually. And he's only one win away from reaching double-digit wins, which we haven't seen the year prior I just mentioned, 2007. So Harvick is – I know you're a Jeff Gordon guy. This is 1998 Jeff Gordon that we're seeing out of Kevin Harvick.
I mean, somebody they shared a picture, and it was like those graphics that NASCAR makes, and it showed all the win stickers, and I was like, that's a lot of damn win stickers, and I had to count them. I was like, I didn't realize, like, I remember 7, 8, but like 9 races he's won this year, 9. Like, he has already won a quarter of the season if he goes winless the rest of the year. And, I mean, let's be honest. me and you can both answer this question now. Like, this is a good question. This is like a Las Vegas question. What's the over under Kevin Harvick, like over under the amount of races Kevin Harvick still goes out and wins with 7 to go?
There's Vegas. He's pretty decent at Vegas. I don't remember how he did this year though. Talladega, that's a wild card. Charlotte. I'd say it's a pretty good shot. I think he grabs another win or two. I don't think it's going to happen in this round, but the round of Vegas will probably be better.
Good observation. If it does happen this round, it's going to be at Vegas. I don't think he's going to go win Dega. I don't think he's going to win the Roval. He just hadn't been. There was a phase where Kevin Harvick was a decent road racer. Him and Kyle Busch are similar. They both really had a phase where they were pretty solid on road courses, and they still are, but they're not like the favorite going to the Roval, I'm sure, is going to be Chase Elliott. I would imagine so. But the next round would be like your Texas, Martinsville. That's the thing. What was the third race in the final, in the second to last round?
The round of 12 is Vegas, Dega, and the Roval.
And then it's Kansas, Texas, Martinsville, right?
Martinsville. Yeah.
Here's the one thing I'll say is there's really only 2 tracks that really favor Harvick that are left. Harvick, and I was going to say 2 wins is kind of where I would put the mark. You could either go over or under. I would say Harvick's probably looking to get maybe 2. Then you got to remember Phoenix for the finale. 2 to 3 more wins I think Harvick could get. Vegas is probably his best bet in this round, which it could be a motivational factor for him. I don't think he's going to win at Talladega. I don't think he's going to go out and win the Roval. If you look in the next round, I would say, again, Kansas is probably his best shot. He doesn't race very well at Martinsville. And I forgot Texas, obviously. So he'll probably get at least 1 win in that second to last round. He's typically not a Martinsville guy. So, I think he at least gets 2 more wins and maybe 3 if it's a must-win situation at the finale. But I was watching the battle from the stands, and obviously it's different because I don't wear headsets and listen to the broadcast, listen to this, listen to that. I just watch. And I saw the battle, and it was going back and forth. And then when Busch cleared him, I thought, well, okay, this race is probably over. And then it kind of goes into the second thing, Kyle Busch versus Joey Logano. I don't even know where this came from. I don't even think they have any bad blood, like current bad blood right now. But Logano was just blocking. I mean, it eventually cost him the race. He pretty much did the same thing he did to Chase Elliott at Homestead earlier in the year. And he just held up Busch. Now, did you see that in the highlights? Like I said,
I just saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter. Everyone was calling out Logano. Like, what happened? Like, what did happen? Like,
because I was watching that take place too. So pretty much Busch was in the lead, and then he was trying to pass Logano. Which let me tell you, it was so cool seeing. Not so cool, but it's weird seeing what you hear all year happen in front of you. Like Ryan Newman cost Brad Keselowski a shit ton of time last night at one point, and because Ryan Newman is a hard car to lap. Logano was trying to stay on the lead lap, and pretty much he just kept running the outside when Busch was trying to run the outside, and he kept holding him up and holding him up and holding him up, like fighting for his life to stay on the lead lap. And Harvick eventually caught him and got back around him, and then Busch just kept fighting and fighting. I thought Busch was really going to try to throw it in there and maybe move the 4 car just because he hadn't won. I really thought he was going to kind of I'm going to move him because I want to win a race, and he almost had a shot in 3 and 4. He was gaining on Harvick within the last 5 laps, but he just couldn't get there. But that was really intriguing. In that situation, if you're Logano, like, what are you fighting for? You're not going to win the race. You're already in on points. I believe you're still in the top 10 at that point. I could be wrong. I may be wrong on that. But, like, what are you fighting for? Like, why are you – all it's going to do is it's going to cost you down the road. Like, that's a situation where, as a driver, you got to learn the touch and go of it. And Busch said it after the race. That's why he said he's nobody's friend for that very reason. Like, Logano gained nothing from holding up the 18 car. But I guarantee the next time the 18 cars is chasing down the 22 and the 22 throws a block, he's going into the wall. It ain't going to be I'm going to cut you a break and I'm going to hold on, because you're going to remember, like the Chase Elliott thing, I get it, right? Like, you owed Chase one. You deserved to cost him a race. He cost you a race. Him and Kyle haven't been into it all year. Like, I don't understand what he thought he was going to gain from costing Kyle the win.
It's weird. It's that mentality of a drive, because you got to think of it also in a driver's perspective. Logano, yeah, he was probably just like, you got to think, because it's like, if a caution comes out, he stays on the lead lap, he could pull some wacky strategy, especially with a crew chief like Paul Wolf, and he could potentially try to go win the race. And I think, was Logano one or two? If he was like going 2 laps down, I would understand what the hell are you doing. But if he was only going 1 lap down, it's a weird balance. It's kind of like what Ryan Newman did with Chase Elliott back in 2017 at Dover. Newman was about to get eliminated, even though Logano was pretty much safe on points, but Newman was about to get eliminated. So you're banking on that caution. You're banking on that. It's a weird like fine line where it's like, yeah, Logano cost Kyle Busch the win, and you could say, oh, Logano should just like cut Kyle Busch like slack. But at the end of the day, you also got to think of it like these drivers aren't paid to like be nice other drivers. Like Logano isn't out there to make friends. He's out there to perform to the best of his ability.
And that is one thing that I get. And you know me, like I'm all about these drivers not being best buddies and doing this. But at the same time, like the difference between Newman and Logano is Newman had to, like, if I go a lap down, my season is over. Joey Logano was, I believe, locked in by the second round. Worst case after, or by the second stage, or worst case after the second stage. And it was like, I get it, and I want drivers to fight. But fighting a guy for a few laps is one thing, right? Like you're fighting him for a few laps. So when it's literally for the win of the race, after that few laps is gone, like just go. Let the leaders go. Don't be the reason that the leader gets passed. Like, don't get me wrong, I love lap traffic at Bristol. It makes it fun. The leader gets held up. The guys have to chase him down. That's part of what's fun about Bristol. But Logano did nothing but hurt himself here. All he did was hurt himself because the next time the 18 gets to him and he needs to cut 22 a break, it's not going to happen. I get it. Logano's fighting for this, but Logano wasn't going to win that race. He didn't have a winning car all night long. He didn't touch the front all night long. He was third or fourth every now and then. So it is what it is. But I think Dalton just tuned in, and so we're talking about Logano right here. But
damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yeah, damn if you do, damn if you don't. So the last part I was going to talk about before we head to kind of like who was eliminated is, man, now, again, I don't know. I'm sure you only saw the highlights. I don't know how the race looked on TV. I don't go back and rewatch races. I've never been that guy. I just don't find enjoyment from it because I know what happened. I was there. But from the stands, like, don't get me wrong, I was just really thankful to be there. I mean, at the end of the day, not to be like a complete jerk, I was just happy to get to go to a race this year. I was one of 30,000 people in the entire world that got to go to that race last night. That's awesome. I expected a different race. I really thought we were going to see a lot of beating and banging. I really thought we were going to see some real short track style racing. Everybody's saying, oh, well, the battle for the win and this and that. Don't get me wrong, that was great. That lasted like 60, 70 laps. I mean, it was a great battle. But other than that, I mean, at one point there was like 6 cars on the lead lap. There really weren't, the cautions for incident. I think Newman spun one time by himself. And I'm not saying you could have crashes and this and that, but when you're building up the race, I think a lot of it's a marketing thing. Like NASCAR builds up this race like everyone and their mama is going to get slapped after the race. It's eliminations. It's cutoff race. Who's going to dump who's going to fight who. Everybody's season's on the line. And then it's almost like the drivers go out there and ride around for 500 laps. And they're not riding around. They're fighting hard, especially the 2 guys up front, Busch and Harvick. But I expected a different race. I was really expecting an iconic moment to happen last night, the first time that Bristol was a cutoff race. I was really thinking something was going to happen, and nothing really did. I just expected a different race, and I was kind of bummed by that. A lot of green flag racing. But what'd you see from the highlights? Did it seem that way from the race, or what'd you notice on it?
Yeah, I didn't see too many highlights. Maybe 2% of the race I saw in total. But yeah, from what I've seen, from what I could gather, it looked like it was a lot of green flag passing. I mean, the thing about it is Bristol, I believe, is such a good track that an average race there at Bristol is still a candidate for a top 10 race of the year.
Right. I would agree to that. I mean, it's hard. I had some of the best seats I ever had last night. I was right in the middle of 3 and 4, and it's like I can't even complain about. Just my view is awesome for the night. Like this whole facility is epic. And like I said, the battle for the win made it fun. I mean, those guys were battling hard back and forth. Logano got mixed in with them, all that kind of stuff. And then Eric Jones was coming for a little while. And I was waiting for the leaders to start racing themselves and Eric Jones get up there and battle hard. But yeah, just expect a little bit of a different race. Still happy I went. Still love going to Bristol. We'll definitely go again down the road. Just was really, really wanting one of those iconic moments, and it just didn't happen this time around. Maybe it'll be next time. So obviously, one of the biggest storylines was 4 guys got sent home. Championship 16 is now the championship 12. And obviously, in 3 more weeks, we'll be talking about this again, but with the final 8. So our 4 drivers that got eliminated were Ryan Blaney, Matt DiBenedetto, Cole Custer, and William Byron. And obviously, there's one driver that sticks out more than the other 3. So we'll start with him. Armani, what's your thoughts on Ryan Blaney being sent home in round 1?
Disappointing season. Very disappointing season for Ryan Blaney. The penalty before the first race of the round even started at Darlington didn't help. And that team, it's very similar to Kurt Busch's season last year, where Kurt Busch, he was like 7th, 8th in point. He was really solid. You think he could even make maybe a push for the championship at Homestead at the time. And then he has an issue in the first race. And then the next 2 races, that team does absolutely nothing to try to make up for it. Same thing with Blaney. Had an issue at Darlington on top of the 10-point penalty. As soon as Blaney had that issue at Darlington, I knew he was going to have to go to Bristol in a must-win situation because he's terrible at Richmond. His average finish is like 25th there, so he wasn't going to do anything there. Bristol, I thought Blaney would actually be able to do something just because he finished 13th. Blaney from what I can tell, he does non-exist in the entire race. That team didn't really do anything to try to mix up the strategy. Even Matt DiBenedetto, I heard, tried to mix up something. Like, I think he tried to stay out at one point. It didn't work because he got eliminated. But Matt DiBenedetto did more to, like, try to advance himself over than Ryan Blaney did. So, very disappointing. I don't know what is up with that team. I think just, like, we talk about how, like, this season, the story for Blaney is, like, good cars, fast speed, something happens to where it goes wrong. Really, for the last month, 2 months, it has been the complete out. It's like, it hasn't been like that. There's no speed, and they finished like 12th, and they just really haven't been. I wouldn't have been surprised if we got eliminated in the round of 12, but the round of 16, this has been a disappointing season for Ryan Blaney, especially when both your teammates advance to the next round. When Brad Keselowski is having career resurgence, it seems like, with his old crew chief, might I add. When you have Todd Gordon as a crew chief, 2018 champion, it's a disappointing season for Ryan Blaney. I don't know if it's the driver. I don't know if he's just not meshing well with Team Penske as well as maybe people expect him to, but it's a disappointing season. Blaney has to find a way to improve.
Yeah, and Dalton was saying he swears that Ryan Blaney and Austin Dillon switched cars. But I will say this. It's good that at least the best young driver in NASCAR is still in the playoffs. All right, I get so much.
Alex Bowman still in the playoffs. I forgot.
Yeah, yeah. I get so much.
The leader of Hendrick.
I get so much flack for this, but what have I said about Ryan Blaney for 3-4 years now? Inconsistent, always inconsistent. With the Wood brothers, it made sense, right? Like, the Wood brothers is an up and down team. There's going to be weeks where they run 7th. There's going to be weeks where they run 17th. There's going to be weeks when they run 27th. Ryan Blaney has continued that habit with some of the best equipment in the garage. Team Penske is some of the best cars money can buy right now. And what's weird is all 3 of them are good. Most organizations have a car that is further off than the other ones. In that organization, that does not happen. All 3 cars can and will win races every year. And I thought this was a big year for Blaney. I personally really thought this would be Blaney's best year. I thought this would be the first year he ever won multiple races in a season. And that's looking to be a wrong prediction. I mean, that team has fallen off the rails, and fans are going to give every excuse in the books. Oh, well, he had the 10-point penalty here, and that wasn't his fault. And then, he just sucks at Richmond. Okay, if you suck at Richmond, get better at Richmond. Like, there can't be an excuse. Oh, the pit crew. Well, the pit crew is not an excuse for when a guy like Chase Elliott or Kevin Harvick or Kyle Busch have a bad race. It's not going to be the excuse I'm going to believe when Ryan Blaney has a bad 3 races. You're in one of the best cars in the garage. I mean, if you really look at it, his equipment, of the 12 guys that are still here, I'm going to count 1, 2. I'm not even, I'm going to give him this one. I'm just going to say that one's there. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say at least 3 drivers in the 12. He has better cars than. And that's still debatable. I still think he has better cars than Clint Boyer. He has better cars than Eric Almirola. So really, you could say 5. You could argue he has better cars than Chase Elliott. I won't get into that debate because they're really, really close. But you could argue that Team Penske is better than Hendrick right now because they have been. So you're looking at 5 to 6. Half of the drivers remaining are in better equipment than Ryan Blaney right now. But guess what? They're still racing for a championship. He's sitting at the house in the theory of the matter when it comes to winning a championship. So very disappointing. He finished 24th, 19th, and 13th in the first round. At what point do you think that is going to transfer? And I get it. And I like Ryan. Ryan's a great guy. I think Ryan's going to be around for a long time. I want to see Ryan have success. But every time I call the BS that goes on with the 12 team, somebody wants to say, oh, you're just – this is what their MO has been since he has been there. One week they're great, one week they're not. The next week they're great, the next week they're not. He only has 11 top 10s this year, 11 top 10s. That's just, a guy like I'm trying to think, a Clint Boyer who barely ever finishes top 10 probably is close to 11 top 10s this year. So you just got to think about stuff like that.
Let me put into perspective. Kyle Busch has 12 top 5s, and this is a down year by his standards.
Thank you. Perfect way to say that. I didn't even know that. Perfect. This is why I love you, Armani. Anyways, moving on, because I don't want to harp on Ryan Blaney for forever, because I could do that. Next guy. We will hit on these 3 pretty quickly. They're kind of all 3 in the same category. These were 3 of the 4 drivers I had out. I believe there were 3 of the 4 drivers you had out. Can't remember. Matt DiBenedetto, Cole Custer, William Byron. Just hit on those 3 real quick.
Matt DiBenedetto, he hasn't had any – that team has had no momentum for like the past 3 months, so not really surprising. He maybe could have pulled a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 2017 where he made it around the 12th, but Matt DiBenedetto, not surprising. William Byron, I think he had an issue with Christopher Bell where like it knocked out the radiator, and I think he had a decent shot out of everyone else. I actually think I had William Byron moving on. Obviously that didn't happen. And then Cole Custer, you didn't think he was going to make it past this round, but for a rookie to be that close to the cut line when he's been running kind of dog shit all year, to be that close to the cut line, closer than Blaney, closer than DiBenedetto, it's still a pretty good season, like kind of like the Titans last year, where it's like, they went 9-7, but the postseason wasn't too bad. You can't really complain. But Cole Custer, I'd say, was pretty good. A lot better. Like we thought, like Custer would probably be in Blaney or DiBenedetto's shoes. He wasn't. He outperformed them, which is kind of crazy to think about. But good for Custer. DiBenedetto, about what you expect. Byron is kind of like he might have had a shot, maybe he didn't. It's like, you're not surprised he got eliminated, but you could be kind of surprised in a way, because he had a little bit of momentum on this side coming. And then obviously we already touched on Blaney.
Yeah. When I look at the other 3, DiBenedetto finished 21st, 17th, and 19th. Pretty much expected. I think everybody had Matt out in the first round. People were trying to hope for a prayer at Bristol. That team is not ready to win. I said that one of my predictions is and I think this was one of my easy predictions. I don't think it was a hard one. I put them in 2 different categories. DiBenedetto will go winless. That he is a driver's not ready to win. That team is not ready to consistently win. So we kind of saw that happening. I wanted Matty D. There was a moment last night where they rolled some strategy. He led a few laps, ran second for a long chunk, and then rebounded from having to pit under green to like finishing like 7th in the race. If they would have caught a late caution, they would have had a shot to really work some magic. But everyone kind of expected this. That team, I'll be honest, they shouldn't be able to transfer with the amount of competition that is in it this year. So I hate the way it went. I really wish that they could have had a couple of top 5s, top 10s to really battle it out, but just didn't happen. Cole Custer, same thing, worst average finish. I don't know why you put him in the round of 12. I tried to talk you out of it. I tried to tell you.
No, I think I actually changed that. I changed that like a couple days later. I had Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Matt DiBenedetto, and I had Kyle Busch out in the first round.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So maybe it was me I can't remember, because at one point you were sold that he was making it through the first round. I'm like, Armani, he has the worst average finish of any driver in the playoffs. And
okay, and like Alex Bowman has the second worst, and he still made it in comfortably.
Now I will tell you this: Cole put himself in a decent position to at least have a shot at Bristol. He finished 12th and 14th in the first 2 races. Finished 23rd at Bristol, but coming in, I think he was only 8 points out. And I mean, I get it, it's points, but Cole put himself in a position that if all hell breaks loose, he had a shot, which was more than what I thought he'd be. I thought he would be in the shoes of Blaney or DiBenedetto, where he's 20-some points out, pretty much going to have to win. So props to Cole, his first playoffs. Obviously, he's eliminated, but gave himself a shot. And then Willie B was actually in it for the most part last night until he had issues. So I actually saw this happen live. I just happened to look in the right spot. There was a lap car. I believe it was a lap car. They're heading into turn 3. Christopher Bell in the lap car, they check up. So Bell checks up quickly. The 24 just ran straight in the back of him, and it busted something on the car. So I saw all that take place right before, and like as it happened, saw his car start smoking, all that stuff. So it was weird to see his season end live and in person right in front of me. But we knew when that was over, we went to the garage, it was over with. But I believe at that point he was in by 8 points. I mean, William Byron had really put himself in a good spot. He was running top 10 most of the night, and I believe he earned some stage points. So frustrating for that to happen, especially in that way, just that small of a mistake. And that small of a mistake ended the entire season for him. So, but those are your 4. Now moving on to the round of 12. So here's the grid. I know you don't have a grid in front of you, so I'll read it for everybody to kind of see it. So obviously we have Kevin Harvick leading the way. He's 62 points to the good as we go into the second round. Denny Hamlin is second, 43 points to the good. Third is Keselowski, 30 points to the good. Hamlin is 43 points to the good. Keselowski is 30 points to the good. Logano is in fourth. He's plus 17. So this is where he starts getting tight, is at Logano. Logano plus 17. Chase Elliott plus 16. Martin Truex Jr. plus 11. Alex Bowman plus 4. Your next 2 drivers are tied. So technically, if they said the round ends now, it's over with. Austin Dillon will get the head nod because I believe he has the better finish from last round. Or maybe he was already higher in points, can't remember. But Austin Dillon is technically 8th in points, but he is tied with 9th Eric Almirola for the last spot. Kyle Busch is below the cut line right now, sits 10th. He is 1 point off. Clint Boyer is 11th, 1 point behind, and Kurt Busch is 4 points behind. So me and you were just going to do some quick hits. Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, we probably won't even discuss them. We pretty much know that those guys are going in. Kevin Harvick is still winning races left and right. I believe he won 2 races in this first round. That's scary. But we talked a little bit about Harvick a little while ago. Well, do we think he can win some more races? So obviously Kevin Harvick is clicking on all cylinders, which is very, very scary for the competition. I'm willing to bet he's going to get double-digit wins this year. He's only got to get 1 more. That'll be pretty iconic to see. Denny Hamlin, that team – it's weird because they have weeks where they don't run well at all. Like at Bristol last night, they were not really relevant for most part of the night. They just kind of floated around 2-3 laps down. I actually saw that happen as well. Truex just went up the track on the 11 car and caused some damage for Denny, but it didn't matter. He was locked in. So let's really start with third, and then we'll work ourselves down. We'll just give a couple of hits about it and just see where we think they are. So third right now is Brad Keselowski. He's 30 points above the cut. What are your thoughts on Brad and his chances to make it to the next round?
The round of 12 has always been Brad Keselowski's Achilles heel. I think he has 3 in 3 playoffs ever since the elimination. He's had 3 years where he's been eliminated in the round of 12. 2016, where he blew an engine to Talladega, I believe, while leading with like 30 laps to go. I remember that race vividly. 2018, obviously, he got eliminated after he won 3 in a row, and then obviously last year when he choked like a 20-some point lead to Chase Elliott. So this year he's better prepared. I don't know if this round suits him more or if it's more or less the same. I mean, last year it was Dover, Dega, and Kansas. This year it's Vegas, Dega, and the Roval. Keselowski's always been kind of up front at the Roval, so I think he get a top 10 there. Dega is. I think Keselowski's like he used to be the plate ace, but he's just been wrecking out of plate races left and right, seems as of recent. And then kind of like how Vegas is Harvick's best shot to win in this round. I think Vegas is probably going to be Keselowski's best shot to advance. I think if he can get like a top 5, not wreck out at Dega, and maybe get a top 15 at the Roval, I think he's got a decent shot at making it.
Yeah, Keselowski, I think he should with relative ease. I don't want to say ease because we've proven it. Nobody is safe with Ryan Blaney being eliminated that early. But, Keselowski seems to be in a position to where he should be able to have decent success. I don't know what happened to him last night. I can't remember if he had to pit under green, but he was leading the first portion of the race, and then he fell off really, really hard. And I don't know what happened to his team at that point. They ended up finishing 34th last night, but he finished 11th at Darlington. Obviously won Richmond. That team is not what they were to begin the season, but I think they definitely are still a force to be reckoned with at some point, because Brad can win at any racetrack, any weekend. That's the kind of the danger with Keselowski. I would put him through to the next round. I don't think you'll have a major problem getting there. But you're right. This is the time of year where, usually every round there is somebody that you don't expect gets eliminated. And Brad Keselowski is probably a top candidate for that, because this is the round every year that gets that team. So I'd like to see them show a little bit more flair, just to kind of, because it's so hard, because Keselowski is he's such a tempting championship Final Four pick, because he's good enough to do it. But every year, they've only made it one time since this playoff format has began.
2017. I was at that race.
They've made it one time since this whole thing has began. And remind you, this is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. This is the 7th time we've had this format, and he's only made it once. So just remember that. There's a reason this team falls off at some point. They usually have a bad luck at some point in this round, and we'll see if they can continue on. Next driver, his teammate, and again, this is where it gets really tight. Joey Logano, 4th on the grid right now, 17 points to the good. I'm going to ask you a different question this time, because me and you both kind of know that this team is up and down. It's weird, because they have not been, both him and Keselowski have not been themselves since early in the year. So kind of a different approach with this driver that we'll discuss is, what do you think they need to do to transfer? Because right now they're all over the map, him to Joey Logano.
They need to actually get results. They can't – you can lead laps and, win stage 1, but it's like, if you're just going to fall off and finish, 18th at the end of the race, that's not going to cut it for this round. I mean, again, we see, Logano – we talk about Keselowski. I think Keselowski has a big enough cushion to where he will advance. Logano could very well be that surprise driver who gets eliminated in this round, and it wouldn't surprise me. That team has been, in some ways, more inconsistent, just as inconsistent as Ryan Blaney has been this year, where it's like, they lead some laps, but by the time the checker flag rolls, they're sub 15th, sub 20th. So they need to actually get top 10 results. They need to actually get some consistency under the belt. They can't just keep going back and forth and back and forth. So if Logano wants to advance, he needs to get some kind of momentum, not just a one-off. He needs to get some sort of momentum, get some consistent top 10s, top 5s, and actually compete for wins. Because, the first round you can get away with if you have a decent cushion. The second round is where it really starts to tighten up. And if, you let your guard down, you're out.
Right. And looking at he's actually been better than you think. He's finished 3rd, and 11th in the first round. And here's the dangerous part. Las Vegas is a place that he's really good at. He's won 2 of the last 3 Las Vegas races. His last 8 finishes are 1st, 9th, 1st, 4th, 7th, 4th, 2nd. And prior to that, actually he had 2 more. So 1, 2, 3. Right, so he has 9 top 10 finishes in a row at Las Vegas. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Vegas has been a very, very good place for Logano. I would expect him to run up front. I would expect him to be a favorite to win. That could be the secret sauce for them, is to get a win in the first race and move on. Talladega, he's a good plate racer, but that's hit or miss. And then you look at the Roval. I mean, he's a guy that'll probably flirt, anywhere from 4th to 7th in the Roval, but he's not an exceptional road racer. So that's something to also keep in mind. So I think it's a very good component. They've got to have the results. If they can keep doing what they're doing, though, they'll definitely have a shot. Next driver on the list, Chase Elliott, sits 5th, 16 points to the good. Chase has been, I'll be honest, to pretty much say it, he's been Chase. Last night was kind of a classic night for them. I thought they would get a little bit closer to the win. They did lead a few laps last night, but looking at his first round, he's finished 20th at Darlington. Remember, he was going for the win, and Truex decided to clear himself. So should have realistically finished 2nd at Darlington. Finishes 5th at Richmond, 7th at Bristol. What do you think about Chase Elliott and his shot to move to the final 8?
He dominated Vegas earlier in the year before he had that tire go down. So Vegas, pretty good track for him. He's pretty good at Dega, but again, it's Dega. I'd say he's going to make it past this round. I trust Chase to make it past this round more than Logano, unless something catastrophic happens, because we know Chase is the god of road course racing at this point. He should have won Vegas this year. And Dega, he's a pretty good plate racer, but again, Dega is Dega. So, like I said, I trust Chase to make it more than Logano, so I got Chase making it.
I think their secret is they've just got to survive Talladega. They'll probably get a 7th, 8th place finish at Vegas. They'll finish anywhere from 7th to 10th at Vegas, most likely, barring any issues. But Hendrick is good for like a good engine failure at some point. They'll always do that at this one point. Remember, it was last year. He had like a catastrophic round where he was just like 2, 3 axles breaking. This broke. I mean, it was just bad. Talladega, I think Chase is a decent plate racer. He's an aggressive plate racer. I'd really like to just see that team sit in the back, survive, and in the last 20 laps, go see what you can get done. I'd really like them to be able to just relax. And then the Roval, I never want to say, well, he's a guaranteed to win, but he's going to be the favorite. Probably going to at least be in the spot to get a top 5 finish. So with a 10th place at Vegas, a top 5 at the Roval, as long as you can maybe get a top 15 at Talladega, you should be good. Just you cannot have any catastrophic failures. I'm with you. I think Chase is definitely good enough to make it to the next round. But again, when you're only 16 points to the good, nobody is safe. You have one failure, and it can be over quick. Next guy, Martin Truex Jr., 6th on the grid. He's 11 points to the good. Me and you'll kind of skip Truex real quick just so we can really get to the nitty-gritty because I think he's kind of in the same realm as Elliot and Logano. If he can just be himself, he'll be good. We've said all year long they lost Cole Pern. They're a step behind where they were. They're a step behind now. Typically he would be one of the guys that are in the top 2 or 3, 30, 40-point cushion. Truex has 11 points right now. It's crazy to think that Martin Truex Jr. is only 11 points to the good. That could be over pretty quick. But I would say me and you probably agree he's in the same boat as Logano and Elliot. If he can just be himself, 10th, 15th place finish every week, he's going to be fine. Let's get to the nitty-gritty right here. Alex Bowman. I don't know. Alex Bowman is like the Ben Rhodes of the Cup Series. Like, you don't know who he is. He'll win a race, then he'll do nothing, but he'll manage to get past the next round, even though it seems like he did nothing. So you're a little bit more focused on Bowman than I am most weeks. What do you think about Alex? Do you think he can make it to the final 8?
Vegas was another race he could have won. It was pretty much between him and Blaney after Elliot had his issue. He's also a pretty good plate racer, Alex Bowman. And the Roval, I think he has the best average finish out of anyone in the Roval. He finished 3rd, I believe, in the first race and 2nd in the next one. So Bowman is just weird. It's like with that team, it's like they do good and then they just fall off a cliff, but then they just find a way to work some magic come playoff time. And even they got a little bit of momentum. They finished, I believe, top 5 at Darlington or top 10. I think he was like 28 points to the good going into Bristol, and I think he obviously made it no problem. So we're going to tracks that are really good for Bowman. I want to say he has a good shot at making it the next round. The problem is it's Alex Bowman. It's that, like, he's not a round of 8 driver. Like, I just don't see that team making it past the next round.
Thank you.
It's just, I honestly could go either way. Like, if he makes it to the next round, I wouldn't be completely surprised just because of the tracks we're going to. Again, it's really going to depend on if that team can find a way to make that magic that they had last year happen. Even not even lead laps, just run like 7th the entire night, and I think he's safe. The problem is Alex Bowman going to run 7th or is he going to run 17th?
Perfect way to say it. I don't even have anything else to say because that's how well you summed that up. You summed up how I feel about the 88 team. Moving on, we'll talk about both these drivers at the same time because they're tied in points. Both have 3,005 points. One is 8th right now above the cut. One is 9th below the cut, but again, they're tied. Austin Dillon, who none of us had here in this situation, and Eric Almirola, a driver who at this point is sort of like an Alex Bowman to where you're thinking, where is he? Like, I guess he's finishing top 10, top 12, but he's not competing for wins anymore like he had that hot summer streak. So Austin Dillon, Eric Almirola, spitball on him. What do you think?
Austin Dillon, this might, unless he just gets like 2 top 5s in a row again, which Vegas, I believe he finished 6th at. I believe he finished top 10 at the race or top 5. Yeah, no, he finished, I believe, 4th in the first race. Granted, he got a little bit wild at the end. Dega, he's a decent little play racer. I think he led the most laps in last year's Coke 600 too. And then the Roval. So I don't think Austin, I mean, because no one saw this streak where Austin Dillon was having coming. So it's like you want to have him out, but at the same time, it's like if he puts together like at least like maybe one top 5 and like a top 10 in a row, he's in the next round. And then it wouldn't be completely shocking, but at the same time, you'll still be like, where the hell did he come from? Same thing with Almirola, though. With Almirola, he was very flashy. He got like 5 top 5s, but last night was his first top 5 since that top 5 streak. So I don't trust any of those two to make it to the next round, but if I had to trust one of them, I'm going to go with Almirola just because I think he has better equipment. He's got a little bit more experience, but really, like, once you get to 8th on down, like, you can make an argument, like, that they shouldn't be in the next round. And, like, you really just have to pick and choose, like, oh, why they should be above the other. Not necessarily, oh, they deserve to be in the next round.
Right. Austin, all props to Austin. Austin has done a great job in the first round. I think that road comes to an end. Interestingly enough, he is actually fairly decent at Vegas. His last 2 finishes are 4th and 12th. So he finished 4th earlier this year at Vegas. Early in his career, he had a couple other top 5s at Vegas. So maybe something to watch out for. He knows how to get around there. But Talladega, I think, is a place that he could run well. He could not run well. You don't really know. So they could put themselves in a position to transfer, but theirs is all about management. Like, just having normal top 10 at Vegas, survive Talladega, and just like Cole Custer came into Bristol with a shot at sneaking in. I think that's going to be AD. I don't think he's going to be above the line. I think he'll be below the line. And if he can just do certain things at the Roval, maybe he can put himself in. So, I say if Austin Dillon goes into the Roval 10 points within being in, that's a success for that team for this year. Beyond further than we all thought. We all already had him sitting home. Eric Almirola, I really don't know. I think I have him eliminated in this round. I can't remember. I believe I have him out in this round. They clearly have the speed that they could transfer. I just don't know if Almirola is going to be clutch enough when the cookie crumbles. He's still not winning races. And I think at some point, some drivers don't have to win to transfer. They're just that good. Certain drivers, they've got to win to transfer. And I think Almirola is one of those drivers. Eventually, he's going to have to win a race if he wants to keep his season alive. Going on to the next one, kind of the biggest name under the line, and then we'll after this driver, we'll quick hit the final 2. We'll get out of here. But Kyle Busch below the line right now. He is 1 point behind, so virtually it doesn't even really matter. But Kyle Busch still has not won a race through 28 races this year. Maybe even is it 29 races now, I believe. Is closing in on a calendar year of no wins, which is shocking. But here we are, still no wins. Kyle Busch still not in victory lane. Technically, he's below the cutoff line right now, and he's got to play offense for the first time, I believe, really, maybe ever since this playoff format has began. Not a ton of offense. Again, only a 1 point deficit. What do you think? Kyle Busch, is this where we see that 18 team either come to life, or do we see them head home?
He ran pretty decently this round. The problem is, even after Richmond, he was only 18 points to the good.
Yep.
And, Bristol is obviously his best track. So, you knew he was probably going to make it. I had Kyle Busch eliminated just because I feel like something was going to happen to where he just gets a DNF and then he's done. That didn't happen this round. I'm actually kind of surprised it didn't. But that's why I had Kyle Busch eliminated, considering like 2 of his best tracks are in the first round. But I think this is where – I think if there was going to be any round he's eliminated, I think he's eliminated around the 12. He's not – all year, he has not been a round of 8 driver. He's been flirting with 9th to 11th in points all season long. He's only got 4 playoff points, only 2 stage wins. Yeah, you could say, oh, that team came to life at Bristol. Half of all of Kyle Busch's laps led have come from the 2 Bristol races. You take those races out, I believe he only has like a little over 200 laps led over the entire season. So he can't count on Bristol anymore. Vegas, he's decent at. Dega, anything can happen. In the Roval, anything can happen. So, Kyle Busch, you want to say he's going to make it just because he's Kyle Busch. But we'd said the same thing about Jimmy Johnson in 2018. And look where he's at right now. So,
right. And I just tweeted this out. The one great thing about 2 drivers winning everything this year, nobody else has a ton of playoff points. And so this is the beauty of that happening is, 3rd through 12th are 34 points separated from each other. A guy like Kyle Busch, now to me, it's it'll be Ryan Blaney-esque if he gets eliminated because there's just really not an excuse to be eliminated. You are in one of the top 5 best cars in the field. There's really not an excuse that a guy, let's look at the list of drivers and teams that I think he's better than. Driving-wise, really you could say still I would only take 2 drivers over him right now, and that's probably Harvick and Hamlin, right? Like even the season Keselowski's had, I would still probably have more confidence in Kyle Busch in this situation. But car-wise, I mean, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Truex, he's running the same stuff. His stuff's – I think the driver would make the difference. 6, 7, 8, 9. Denny Hamlin, again, there's 9 drivers that are here that he's better than. So, in theory, Kyle Busch should make it. I have him making the Final Four, so obviously I'm going to go out still on the limb and say, yes, he's going to make it. But it's not an easy round. It really is not. Vegas is a really good – Vegas is going to be very – and this is one thing that I wish NASCAR would market more, that a guy like me and you know how to market. They won't. Vegas is going to be huge because it is the only race that is not an unknown in this round. The only one. You can't control what happens at Talladega. And even though the Roval and road course racing is not as crazy as it was 10 years ago, there's still a lot of outside things that can happen. I mean, you could still go get turned by anybody. You could have Jimmy Johnson just take you out from the wind. If you never know what could happen that are things that are out of your control. So Vegas is very important because it's everybody's best chance to go out there and lock themselves in. Because I don't care how good you are, Talladega does not play favorites, period. In the Roval, there's going to be favorites, and you'll probably see your same old traditional guys up front, but a lot can happen. I mean, even Chase Elliott burnt through heartburn turn last year and fortunately didn't destroy the car, but he should have been in the garage when that happened. So I think Kyle Busch will make it. I think he's a better driver, has a better car. There's no excuses for him to not make it. Moving into the last 2 drivers, Clint Bowyer, Kurt Busch, anything special about you guys, these guys that you offer? I believe I have both of their roads ending here. I just don't see anything special out of those teams. Bowyer has been running decent. Bowyer had a pretty fast car last night. Kurt Busch was good early. But anything special you see out of these guys that can maybe change my mind and maybe put them into the next round?
Not really. Kurt's kind of in the same boat as his brother. He's only got 1 playoff point. Is this round? I mean, Vegas is probably his worst track. Dega, he's hit or miss out. The Roval, anything. I mean, and the Roval, he hasn't really done anything there. Bowyer, he's a decent plate racer. He's pretty good at road course racing. I think he got 2 top 5s in the 2 Roval races. Like I said, it's like really just like from Bowman on down, you can make like it's kind of like in the same boat. Like you can really just like it's not necessarily why they should be in the next round. Like they are round of 8 drivers. It's more or less okay. Really 8 but like the Bowman on down, none of them in my opinion really deserve to be in the round of 8. That's like you can make it like if they're eliminated, you're not surprised. You're like, yep, that's about expected. So really the same thing with Bowyer and Kurt. Like, you can really just blend them all in the same bin.
Right. And that's something that we see this every year. And that's why what Austin Dillon is doing right now is so cool because he's the one guy that you didn't expect to be here. And we don't get too many unexpecteds in NASCAR, not winners, not top 5 guys, not, shockers in the playoffs. But Austin Dillon has been one. So that's what's really cool about what he's doing. I'm with you. I think the one guy below the line that probably makes it is Kyle. The one guy that falls. I mean, that's the thing is, Bowman and Dillon probably should be out after this round. But then again, I don't see an argument for Almirola, Bowyer, or Kurt Busch. So there's really 5 drivers that should be out. Obviously, one of them has to make it. And then there's always the one driver that shouldn't be out that does out. And your favorite nominees for that are Keselowski, Logano, Elliot, Truex, Kyle Busch. I mean, they're all in a situation. And that is one beautiful thing about what I said. When 2 drivers dominate the entire season, I mean, take out Keselowski, take Joey Logano all the way down. They're 21 points between 9 drivers. I mean, that is 2 stages, and your lead is gone. And that'll be beautiful. But I know we got to get out of here. Football's kicking off. You've got work that you've got to get done. Obviously, appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. Me and Armani already talking about trying to change some things up for next year and make this show a little bit better, a little bit bigger. But We appreciate you guys listening. Follow along. Motorsports Minister at Velocity XTC. Armani, I'm NASCAR_opinion. Best of luck to your football teams today. Hope you guys enjoyed the Bristol night race. I was just damn proud to be there. Armani, you got anything left for us?
Sorry, OBB, but fins up, baby.
Fins up. Keep pounding. We'll see y'all next time.